All right, folks, I'm Don Ford. This is actually a sound test show. Normally I have the whole group with me, but I've been having some connection issues. So we're going to give it a shot and see how far I can go with the breakdown we had for the show. Just see how long my connection holds in. So anyways, I was really ticked off, too, was having all these problems because today was such a big day for news related to things our group talks about. For months, we've been talking, a year, we've been talking about RFK's illegitimate ACIP, and it literally got ruled illegitimate today by a judge. Basically ruled that all of the rulings that they made that were like outside of the guidelines didn't happen. So he said really harsh things. Like, he singled people out. He talked about how there were only like 3 of them that really should have been even like near the thing, and even they didn't have what he considered expertise. So it was pretty brutal. All things considered, it was pretty brutal. In addition to that, big news. We always talk about Novavax and all sorts of other stuff going on with that. And apparently Novavax is appearing in the UK again for their spring rollout. Now that's still going to be Jan 1, but it is getting a foothold with Sanofi distributing it, where where now Novavax is going to be available in the UK. It's only when they did roll out. So we're very hopeful that that's going to be good for people in the UK. I mean, whether you're trying to help with your long COVID or prevent your long COVID or whatever you're trying to do, just protect yourself from COVID. That's the better way to do it. People always talk about whether or not one vaccine is better than the others, and people get into conversations on, that's anti-vaxxer discussion. No, the one vaccine is literally better. It really ticks me off too if you're listening to this. People are always talking about how, like, whether or not things block infection and what sterilizing means, and like a lot of people use these terms wrong in order to undermine like the beneficial factors on like how you protect yourself. You still need a mask until we get the full upper respiratory tract stuff worked out, but that's mucosal vaccines. That's still a while out. So I'm really hopeful that those are coming in the future. But in the meantime, we need to get the best solutions that we have. Like, if there's a limit to the amount of protection that we can offer people, we should make sure that we're hitting that maximum. So I feel like when I say like, we're protecting ourselves with antibodies, and Novavaxes are like 2 to 3 times higher because you can get additional doses that stack responses, that makes it better. When you say that it has reduced AE compared to other vaccines, but equal or greater protection, that makes it better. When you say that it might have a benefit to other chronic illnesses, it's more long lasting, that makes it better. So when people are always saying, whether or not what is better or what isn't, it's very upsetting that we're like, limiting that information for people who need it, especially people who are seeking it out. So RFK gets shut down. Novavax is expanded. The long COVID light up. A lot more buildings got lit up around the world than I thought were going. They had it happen in Los Angeles. Shout out to Clean Air LA and all the other groups that worked on that. If I forgot somebody or you were involved, I'd love to hear more about the groups who actually really made that happen. Because my understanding is somebody was talking to a particular politician and kind of got everything moving, and I want to commend whoever did it. So good job. You deserve it. So make sure we get that right. That kind of takes us over into like war land, like what's going on with all this war stuff. The big question is Netanyahu alive? That's the big question. Is Netanyahu alive? I've gotten 3 videos about Netanyahu trying to prove proof of life, and I would say they fall a little short for a couple of reasons. And people have gotten good at looking at AI videos, and I spent way too long. I don't even want to admit how long I spent watching videos of people breaking down their interpretations. But the first video had obvious problems, which the finger thing, but the big one was the teeth. If you look at the first video and you count his teeth as his mouth moves, the number of teeth he has is constantly changing. And at one point, he has way too many teeth in his mouth, like more teeth than a human has. Then in the second one, where he's at the coffee shop, He is there's a whole bunch of issues with how like the fabric moves and how it confuses light, and how the cup moves, and they've also like basically drained an entire water source making videos in that exact coffee shop, with all kinds of people that look extremely convincing. So people have been really showing how easy it is. But the big one with that one is actually his ears. And so if you've ever looked at Netanyahu from the front, he kind of looks like he's got like big out ears. But when he turns to the side and you look at him sideways, they look normally flat. They don't look like they're pointed out. And in that video, when he turns his head, his ears are pointed out like Dumbo ears. Like human ears aren't shaped like that. So like that's a big one. And then in the most recent one, his wedding ring disappears. Like his wedding ring just vanishes in between shots. Goes away, comes back, and some people have pointed out that he's left-handed, not right-handed. I don't know about that, but that's something people have pointed out a lot. So, I mean, unless something has happened in like the 2 hours that we were planning this call, I would say that all these things have like raised more questions or more doubts than answers. Or I feel like we're not really getting the thing. So the rumor is this is where the rumor mill is. Basically, there was an Indian journalist chasing Netanyahu around as a fan of what Israel was doing. He's like in support of them, trying to get an interview with Netanyahu, and he finally tracked him down to a specific house, and he did a live stream saying Netanyahu is in that house and he wants to get in there to interview him. Apparently, Iran was aware that this guy was seeking out Netanyahu around the country and was watching his live streams, and they bombed that house. And that's where Netanyahu's brother and the Mossad chief were killed. So that did happen. Those two people did die. Other people were there. So we know that some people did get killed. There was a successful bombing, and that Indian journalist has already been arrested. I haven't seen an actual report on that, but I've seen people talking about it on social media, like in a lot of people talking about it. So so there's just a lot of like question, and like maybe it's the fog of war, or maybe it's all maybe their videos are fine, but the videos definitely have issues. Like there's definitely something wrong, and it's very weird. And also, like, he's more, like, old and bloated than that. He doesn't look like his skin. He looks like he's just came out of, like, a health spa or something like that. It doesn't look like he's dealing with this sort of stuff. So I think the next couple of days are going to be really insightful, because there's a lot of talk that people are saying that there's other countries are reporting it differently than America. Like, it's all kind of, like, what is happening here. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I hope it means end of war, but at the same time, we know that they're activating their reservists to go to Lebanon. I have no one here to correct me when I mix up the geography, but the country to their north, they've been blocking off areas where everyone has to evacuate, and then just bombing the crap out of it, just like they did in Gaza. And it seems like they're activating like their entire reserve force in order to go in and occupy that, which is just really intense. The more you think about it, the more you're like, how the hell is this being allowed? But it is, because nobody's doing anything. But we do have, we have people around the world, like different governments, especially in Europe, are starting to drop militaries after not having militaries since like World War II. So it's kind of a lot. Because you also have, Iran, it looks like, did not come to play. They absolutely are taking this as seriously as possible and hitting everyone super hard. And now they're like announcing like new targets and coming up just much more aggressive than anyone thought. And even though like their island where they make all their oil is getting bombed, and there's talk about invading that, but now the Strait of Hormuz, no one wants to back Trump up on the coming into the Strait of Hormuz. Like every country has like denied him support, and so that means like American warships are going to be doing it soon. So just the whole thing is, I would say, is going, especially since this may or may not event where Netanyahu something happened. It just seems like everything on what would be our side, even though I'm not in support of this at all, has been increasingly disorganized. Like, it just feels like like a drone that lost its controller. It's just sort of like hovering there, like it could do something. What's it gonna do? No one knows, and that's scary. And then Trump is already talking about going to Cuba and taking over Cuba, because Cuba's now running out of power because we took their oil from Venezuela and sold it to Israel. So that happened. And so now Cuba has no fuel, and then we got other countries that are getting ready to run out of fuel because the Strait of Hormuz is closed. And then Trump is like wants to seem to use that like disarray to like take over other countries, because he seems to think he lives as a villain in some sort of action hero movie or something. Like it's like he's like an Austin Powers villain, but like actually dangerous. Like it's like comical, but then people actually die, and it's horrible and avoidable. And here we are again. Good thing we didn't prosecute for January 6th. So there is some good news, and then there's some bad news. You know, I feel like the RFK getting shut down is really exciting. We'll see what happens with the appeal. ACIP getting ruled illegitimate. I mean, anyone who's hung out with Jesse for the last year would have heard that line at least a few times. So that's a huge, at least like, we keep making that point, and there we are. Novavax expansion. Hopefully we're going to see Australia soon, and Canada. I heard rumblings of Canada, but I don't have a single source or piece of evidence to back that up. I heard rumblings that there was something, because the problem in Canada for Novavax expansion was that they had to build a plant there, and the plant that never manifested because of all the drama over the vaccines making money. It turns out things that make money, there's a lot of drama, and so that never manifested, and that's why Canada doesn't have it. And the thing about Australia that's really frustrating is Australia has free doses that they just have to like say they want. They have free doses. They could have Novavax in Australia like next week. I don't know how that deal works between Sanofi and Novavax, but I'm sure they'd work it out if they needed to. But there are doses that are owed to this country of Australia that people want and they just can't get. Now, we are, by the way, going to have a complete update this season. We didn't update the last couple of seasons, so I anticipate that there's going to be a big variant shift. I think it could... See, it's tough. It could be as simple as an XFG. Could just be XFG or an XFG derivative or like an RE or something like that. Like, it could easily do that. I don't think that like a new variant is going to like pop out of the woodwork, but at the same time, like, we wouldn't even catch it if it did, because we're not really monitoring things properly. So there's just a lot to say about how we're moving forward right now. Is going to be like really, really tough. But it is going to be some type of XFG derivative. We did see BA32, I believe that became RE, and we were seeing a surge in BA32 because of RE, because, you know, they group all these variants together. So it's tough to say what's going to be happening there. We did, if you didn't catch it, we did just have a presentation for influenza vaccines, and you know, you think COVID variants are tough to choose. You look at the COVID variants, and you look at the influenza variants, and you're like, well, I totally get why they tried to do bivalence for COVID right away, because it's hard to pick a really source variant, and the influenza is just like all over the place, and you're only talking like an eightfold range, so it's like the range of actual, like, you're shooting a huge target with a really tiny bullet. Like, I feel like the big thing we were trying to push at this meeting was, you know, our vaccines simply aren't good enough. We can't look at the standard. Like, there was all this drama over the mRNA vaccines and Moderna and how they used the standard dose, which they did again with their RSV vaccine, which is super annoying. But basically, when you think of the standard dose, people think of like that's the like minimal protection, right? But like, no, it's the minimum protection. It was set in the 70s. Like, the time we've had the standard protection the standard dosage is more than half of the time that we've had like influenza vaccines. So we only started influenza vaccines in 1942. We had the standard dose set in like 1977, and then it is now 2026, and it's been 50 years, right? We said we weren't going to do math live on the show anymore, but I'm alone and no one's here to stop me. So the math, it shows it's been so long that you're talking 30 years to set the standard dose and then 50 years of using it. Well, it might be time to be thinking about we should be reaching for a higher response, and it's okay to say that now. That was actually something I actually said in one of my slides. So I'm really hoping that we're going to see some changes in prioritization. And we were talking to VRBPAC, which is the not illegitimacy, which is nice. But it's been a long road with all of this stuff, and it was nice to see some traction just with the agency saying, yeah, these aren't good enough, and we do need to improve these, and we do need to set a higher bar. I was very disappointed to not see any data we didn't have data from anyone. I think there was only one presenter, and it was someone I wasn't expecting. Like, I really wanted to see more of the combo data or the influenza in general from the Matrix M's batches. There's a couple of them that I've been talking about in the works, but these are things that like I feel like we really need to see and like get people like now is a good time to be like, here is a good time to make improvements and things and a step in the right direction. And it's disappointing when it doesn't happen, but there's always the next time, and it could happen anyways. It's just, it would be nice, especially with all the drama. But anyways, the whole point was that we were arguing about was we need to have a change in how the standard dose is handled so that people can't get like manipulated by studies that use standard dose. So it's slightly better than, it's non-inferior to the standard dose. That means it's not as good as our current vaccines. Like, if it was better than our best vaccine, they would measure it against that vaccine, not some like standard set in between that. It's amazing how people get like sucked into that marketing terms, right? And that's that's kind of a problem like across the board, especially when you talk about like there's a vitamin D study that's going around. I did not read the whole study in general like thoroughly. But the general idea is that they tested people with acute COVID, and they started them after the onboarding the vitamin D, after they had COVID, and they saw like no difference in response from people. And you're like, yeah, because it's not a medicine, it's a supplement. So, and first off, you need magnesium. If you don't know, you need vitamin D. Apparently, you need K2 and magnesium to process vitamin D. So, like, if you're going to onboard vitamin D, you got to make sure that these other things are also being onboarded properly as well, or else they're not going to have an effect. So they managed to measure that not having an effect and then turn around and say, oh, see, it doesn't have an effect, but they're not using it how it's intended to be used. It's more of like a lifestyle thing than it's not a medicine. It's not like something you take like Paxlovid that has a direct effect on something. So I think on a good note, if you listen, my internet has been absolute garbage, but I have not been getting disconnected. So I changed some settings in my bitrate and some other things, and it looks like I am not disconnecting anymore. So hopefully this is a long-term solution, which we can use some long-term solutions for a number of things before Trump starts calling. Like, I could just see him just, like, calling it, like, Trump Island or something stupid. Like, I don't want it. I don't want that. Oh, man. That was actually all the content. So, yeah, that was all the content we had for today. But since no one in the group is here, I'm just going to do a quick 20 minutes. And I proved that the sound works. So, thank you, everybody, if you actually took some time to listen. Kind of rolled through everything we were going to talk about. But it takes a little longer when you have more people here. More interesting conversation too.